Hey everyone, I'm Monique and I'm back today with a new layout that I've created using some lovely freebies from scrapbook.com. This first one is a lovely ephemera pack from Simple Stories, which was available a couple of days ago. And now we're onto this lovely paper rose berry border metal die and this 6x6 Christmas wishes paper pad from Reminisce. So the berry border and this paper pad are both currently free over at scrapbook.com. So you just add them to your cart as normal and get them for free. Now this paper pad is lovely, some lovely festive designs, and they are double-sided. So you've got lots of festive designs there to choose from. So these are going to be my three main products, along with some textured cardstock from Basil. Now, as soon as I saw this metal die, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I just had this idea of a tone-on-tone background using white cardstock. So I'm cutting long strips that are a little bit wider than that metal die, just so that there's a little border on either side. And I'm using a full sheet of textured white cardstock cut into strips, which I'm then going to use the metal die to create beautiful, delicate cut out strips, which I'm going to add to a plain white background. Now the die is obviously not long enough to cut the full 12 inches of the width of the white cardstock, so I'm going to need to cut it multiple times, but that's okay. I can get it all lined up, and this is my first one that I've done, and I've started off by putting the metal die in the middle of the white strip of card, and I've taped it down with some mint tape, and there I'm just cutting it out and carefully lifting it up, and it is so pretty. I just absolutely love how that looks. Now I want to make sure that the ends on either side of that are cut out, so I'm just lining it up back in the middle. It is a little bit of guesswork, but I've just carefully looked at the die to get an idea of how much space it needs away from the edge of my previous cutout, and it works out pretty perfectly. I have absolutely no mishaps with this. It works just seamlessly, really. And then I just repeat that on the other side, and it looks exactly how I imagined. Now that doesn't often happen, so I was so pleased. It really is just very, very pretty, and I'm so glad that it worked out how I thought. Now I repeat this process for each of the strips. However, I don't put the die in the same place for each of them because I don't want it to look uniform. So the first one, I started off with the die in the middle. The next one I start with the die right flush against the one edge, and then I work my way through the rest of the strip, just so that each of those strips is ever so slightly different. And here I've got all of them, and they really are beautiful and just so pretty. I love that beautiful detail, and so simple to create. So I'm just laying those horizontally across another sheet of 12 by 12 white cardstock, and I'm just making sure that those die cut patterns are varied between the different strips, so I don't have two that have been cut the same right next to each other, just so that it's got a lovely natural look when they're all placed together. Now I'm just going to take my tape runner and put a little bit of adhesive down each of the sides of each of those strips. I'm not going to put any glue on behind the berry part of the die cut. I just want to stick those edges down, and I'm only really doing this to keep those borders in place because I am going to come in with some stitching. So that is going to secure everything in place properly, so I don't need a lot of adhesive. It's more just to keep it from shifting while I'm sewing. So I'm just going to add some machine stitching to each of those little strips, those border strips. So there's in between each one there, it looks like 2 rows of stitching, and I just love the texture that adds, and along with the detail of that metal die, I think it's really so pretty. Now I want to add some baubles, but I want them to be 3-dimensional, so I'm just folding a piece of plain white cardstock in half, and I'm just drawing a bauble shape. So I want one that kind of like hangs down and creates a point at the bottom. So I've just roughly drawn something, and then I'm going to cut it out, and when I open it up it's going to give me the full shape. Now if you don't want to freehand draw this, you can absolutely use different things as a template. You could use something that is a round shape, 2 different size circles if you wanted to, and then just add little points on. You could do plain round baubles by just tracing around half of a circle shaped item like the bottom of a glass or something. Just have a little look around your craft room. I'm sure there's tons of different things, like I'm using my texture paste here and just going around half of that just to get a perfect circle shape. So you definitely don't need to freehand draw these shapes. You can use things that are around you and use them as templates. So I'm just having a little play to see where I think I would like them to go. And then I'm going to take the pattern paper from Reminisce and pick some colours that I like. So I just have a flick through to see which ones I want to use. So I've chosen these 3. So there's 2 different red ones and a green one. And I just love how rich these colours are. So I'm going to just draw one more bauble. And this one is a much narrower one with kind of like 3 circles joined together and a little point at the bottom. And that's all I'm going to do. So now I'm going to use these templates to create my baubles, and I'm going to cut multiples of these out in each of the pattern papers. So I decide to have a red bauble on the left and a red bauble on the right, and the middle one is going to be green. So I take my first pattern paper. I'm just having a look to see how wide that circle is when it's in half, just so that I can fold that pattern paper in half. And then I'm just using that little template as a guide to cut out my circles. And I start off cutting 4, but then I do add a 5th circle as well. It just makes that 3-dimensional bauble just a little bit more full. So it looks like that when it's all stuck together, and I really think it's quite effective. So it's really quite simple to join these together. You just add, like I'm going to do in a moment, you're just going to add some adhesive to one half of one of the circles, and then you glue it to another half of another circle. And you just repeat this process until you've used all of them, and you'll have a little stack of folded circles. And then when you open them out, they create this lovely 3-dimensional effect. But if you want to put it into a page protector, you can easily fold those flat and you will still see the shape of the bauble. It just won't be 3-dimensional. So it's a bit of a win-win. You can have it for decorative purposes, where you can see that 3D detail, but if you do want to pack it away for next year or put it in an album, then you can fold it flat and keep it protected in a plastic sleeve. So I'm just repeating this with all of these baubles, but I really do like this idea for making your own decorations if you wanted to, and you could even make huge ones if you wanted something homemade to decorate your house. And instead of just doing 5 of each of the bauble shapes, you would do lots, and the more you have, the more full your decoration would be. So I think this is quite a fun way, and it's really easy to do with the kids. So I'm definitely going to give this a try with my children to make some homemade decorations. So there they are, and I'm quite happy with how they've turned out and how those look. And I'm just going to have a little play to see how they look and where best I would like to place them. So I do want them to be a little bit staggered, and I'm quite happy with how that looks. And now I'm just coming in with this Simple Stories ephemera, and there's 2 word pieces in there. One says hello and one says December, and I think that's quite perfect for this page. And it's the start of December, so we'll say hello to the festive season with this page. And there's some lovely die cuts of poinsettia flowers, and I think those just add some lovely detail behind each of those baubles. So I'm quite happy with how that's looking just now. And at this point I realize I've not given a single thought to the photo. There's no photo in this layout, and there's no I haven't created a space for one. I've just gone ahead with my idea and just totally forgotten that a scrapbooking layout usually includes a photo, which is a little bit strange. However, I'm really liking how this is looking, and at this point I decide this is going to be a decorative page that I can use to display in my house, and it doesn't need a photo. So I shift focus and just carry on creating and going with the flow and creating a more decorative page to welcome in the festive season. So I'm starting to stick everything down, and there were 3 little red hearts which I've kind of scattered around as well. And I'm just using my pencil to mark the top of each of those baubles, because I want to come in now with some gold thread and do some stitching so it looks like they're hanging down. And I've done I think 3 or 4 rows of stitching, and I've also stitched underneath that little piece of ephemera that says Make It Merry, and that just gives a lovely nice little touch of gold sparkle to the page. Now sticking these baubles down is really quite easy. I've just folded them flat and added lots of adhesive to the back. This tape runner is really very, very sticky, so I know it's going to stay in place even on top of all the die cuts in the background. So just make sure that whatever adhesive you choose to use is quite strong, because if you do something like this, because there is quite a lot of texture in the background that it needs to adhere to. But this works quite well, and I'm loving seeing how this is coming together. Now I'd like to raise up the title piece, so I'm just using some double-sided foam adhesive strips, and I'm going to be just raising those up just to give a little bit of extra dimension. I love all the dimension that's on this page already and all the texture in the background, so why not add just a little bit more? So I think it might have looked a little bit strange if this title was flat on the background, so I feel it gives just that extra little bit of dimension with it raised up. And I'm just having a look to see where best I like that Make It Merry sign. I've decided where I'm going to position the December, and I'm also going to raise that up just the same height as the hello, and I'm going to overlap them slightly so they're quite connected as a title. And I do love the two different fonts together. I think it works quite well and is quite effective. Now the Make It Merry, I'm going to just stick straight onto the background. It is kind of like a little subtitle. It was the perfect little piece actually to go with that. I love how those words all work together. And now I'm just going to find a spot for those hearts, and there, I'm happy with that, with those 3 hearts making a little triangle around that title. And I'm also again just sticking those straight onto the background. And last but not least, I'm adding 3 little gold gems in various sizes to each of those hearts, creating 3 little clusters around my title, making a visual triangle. And this layout is very minimalist for me. Usually I'm all about the color and lots of more on my page, but that background for me just has so much detail, and I absolutely love it, and I really don't want to draw away from that lovely texture in the background. So I've kept this one quite minimalist, and I absolutely love it. So this is going to be an annual decoration in my house in a 12 by 12 frame. Thank you so much for joining me today as I create this layout that's not really a layout, and I hope you've seen something that inspires a new idea for you. I've linked everything up below. There's an affiliate link for scrapbook.com if you want to grab these freebies as well. I do so appreciate your support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!